how the reference manual explains APQP and PPAP. Hello, my name is Michael Zehrer from MTU Aero Engines in Munich, Germany. As a quality representative, I'm responsible for the APQP and manufacturing readiness level and gating processes at MTU. I've joined the ASQ Subject Matter Interest Group, APQP and PPAP, in 2023. In this section, I will show how our reference manual RM13145 explains APQP and PPAP and supports the successful application of both standards. I would also like to introduce the benefits of APQP and PPAP implementation and application and discuss the main advantages.
Yes, hello, together with Michael. Klaus-Dieter Sarg is my name. I'm focal point for the quality assurance processes here in MTU. And yes, my main focus is the PPAP content. And yes, I'm also a member of the SMIC group here. So we hear later after Michael's part.
In the previous sections, you have heard about your role and your part in APQP and PPAP. From my experience, when it comes to APQP, 80% of users talk about PPAP elements. So it is therefore important and useful to understand the two applications and how they interact. This statement is easy to remember. APQP is the activity framework and PPAP is the evidence. That means if you do APQP well, PPAP needs little effort. The advanced product quality planning is a structured approach that aims to improve quality and efficiency in product development and production. It is in addition to the 90,100 quality requirement standard because APQP for the first time requires a phase model and a timing plan. Overall, and that is a benefit, the implementation of APQP contributes to higher product quality, lower costs, and better customer satisfaction, which ultimately increases a company's profitability. The production part approval process is a formal confirmation that the development and production processes have been successful and that the product is ready to go into serious production. Overall, PPAP helps to increase product reliability, reduce production costs, and shorten time to market by ensuring that all parts meet the required standards before they enter production. Since APQP forms the backbone for AS13100, here's also the link to the ASQ page with all reference manuals for the AS13100 application. The reference manual was newly published in August 2024. With the reference manual 13145 updates, APQP phase color coding, messaging improvements, use of icons for topics, improved incorporation of the flight analogy, benefit descriptions, clear links to AS13100 section C, incorporation of all AS13100 elements, key minimum standard evidence checks, that means PPAP submission and file review. It supports the implementation efforts of the APQP and PPAP standard. At first glance, APQP and PPAP are complex. Therefore, it makes sense to look at things with two lenses. Lens 1 on the left shows the APQP and PPAP timing chart view, and lens 2 on the right, one back please. Yes, and lens 2 on the right shows the customer supplier management process view. Let's start with lens 1 on the next page. The APQP and PPAP timing chart view. As you have already heard, APQP complements the 9100 requirements in quality management with the phase model and thus the timing plan. What are the essential requirements? the time-based framework for APQP and PPAP methodology. 5 phases, each with specific milestones and requirements. APQP and PPAP events act as checks and milestones. APQP deliverables and PPAP elements representing the specific results. 27 plus 2 elements are listed. 13 plus 3 customer-specific requirements are used for PPAP. What are the benefits of a well-structured approach for the supply chain? Regarding the supply chain efficiency and profitability, APQP can bring products to market faster and more efficiently. Another benefit is the efficient use of resources, the early identification of risks and their mitigation, the reduction of rework and rejects, and the continuous improvement using past projects' lessons learned. Of course, it is an effort to introduce APQP and PPAP, but you are not starting from scratch. I'm sure the companies will already be using many elements in a very similar form. That is MTU Aero Engine's experience. The customer and supplier management process view. In this view, the interfaces between customer in blue and organization in green become clear. Your organization may be the supplier for your customer, or you may be the customer in the supply chain who commissions a subcontractor. The customer in blue, you can see the customer requirements on the left and the customer review on the right. The organization in green, your processes are in between and goes from the kickoff to the production launch. And again, APQP events and PPAP events support the process steps. How you can manage APQP and PPAP? You have customer orientation, your timing meets or exceeds the customer plan, the fulfillment of customer requirements, the improved communication, and the PPAP submission. Again, what are the benefits for supply chain efficiency and profitability? Meeting customer needs and expectations, interdisciplinary collaboration, systematic error prevention, and continuous improvement. The next step is to bring these two views together. I will hand over to Klaus.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
So let's go on. After looking through those two lenses, yes, the first lens we looked through about that phases and the timelines, and the second one about the involved parties and yes, how they are interacting. Now we need to ask, of course, yes, how do we join those two lenses, and what is the bond around that? And yes, the bond around that is our cross-functional frame. So with the reference manual we provided with the AI 13100, we tried to harmonize those different deliverables, elements, evidences, to harmonize those in a standardized, let's say, project management task. Yes. And these harmonized methods, they yes, harmonize those elements across the different phases and for the particular events we saw already. So when we go back in this view here, we have that green arrow with probably all the different elements along that. Then we need to know that all the elements, they develop along that path. And so a particular element looks different in the phase 1 than in the phase 2, and it develops in the phase 3 and is maybe closed then in phase 4, however. And the same is with the multifunctional team. They shall elaborate those particular elements, but they are not always the same people. So we always have a multifunctional team, of course, but we possibly need different specialists for that. So in phase 2, there are possibly other specialists for the development than later for the validation. And to cover all that together, it's always a project management task to have the right evidence at the right moment. And the central point for that is what we already heard from Eric, the so-called RACI. So here we cover all the involved participants and all the elements. So this means we need to make not only one RACI. So this RACI is produced in every phase of the APQP and also for every element. Only with that work, we can be sure that the process management task is fulfilled later. And yes, so yes, let's say the reference manual then supports this with other methods that you possibly also know from other project management situations or contexts. But here we try to focus them on the APQP view. Okay, so this, let's say, development and this fluent content we have during the APQP is what we want to harmonize with that cross-functional frame. If we go on the next slide, please. Then here we see the second essential of our frame, and this is the so-called APQP assurance, or the APQP project assurance. So this is part of the AS 13100 in its section 18, and this project assurance, it consists of different monitorings and reviews. So with those monitorings and reviews, we want to refine our packages, our APQP packages, along the path. So it becomes more and more refined, depending where we stand within one phase and in what phase particularly. So the reference manual it gives for this refinement also a good help. The key for that, or the central point for that, is the so-called pass criteria. So we don't only look on the APQP packages in general. We go to detail with particular pass criteria. Those pass criteria in the appendix, they are the questions, let's say, as an essential from the requirements we found on different positions in the AS 13100. So we have the confidence when we go through the pass criteria in every of the phases, then we fulfill the APQP project assurance. And so this project assurance is a kind of matrix, depending on what risk level we possibly have our particular evidences, and so it's yes, organizing those reviewing and those monitoring. Of course, we can't do those monitoring, or we can't do it on our own. We need to involve the participant as well as the project owner, but very important is to involve here the stakeholders, yes, to get that different views for the monitoring. This is the way to yes, elaborate those packages. And as I said before, this big picture here with the cross-functional frame is always a project management task. And so, of course, we need to involve, yes, the management attention on this particular harmonization tools to get the awareness for the results. So, yes, those two, let's say, main essentials are this cross-functional frame around the two lenses. Yes. So the two lenses with their toolboxes and the framework around that to give the project management behind it. Okay, so this is from my point of view. So I would lead to the next section.
Hi, my name is Kyle Barlow. I'm an advanced quality engineer with GE Aerospace, primarily working with the global manufacturing and machining company or section as an APQP mentor. A lot of good content in this webinar, and I know it's a lot of information to try to digest. I highly recommend going to the ASQ website, both for the frequently asked questions section, as well as the supplemental section for the guides, the templates, the timing plan, the RACI, all is located there. Free to download, just a wealth of information. If you do have a question, we're going to be answering in the little bit of time we have left. Just put that in the chat, but we're going to close out the webinar with two Slido questions to get some more feedback from you. So if you would, please rate on a scale of 1 to 5 how much you learned from this webinar today. I know it differs greatly because, you know, a lot of companies are in different phases of their APQP journey. So it'll be different and varied, you know, per company, per supplier. So pretty much right down the middle. Give it a couple more minutes or seconds rather. So an average 3 right down the middle. And last Slido of the webinar, what topics would you like to see covered in future webinars? And this could be APQP related, PPAP related, or just in general, what you feel you would like to have. So a lot of individual deliverable events. Good to see. Yes, risk analysis, DFMEA. A lot of good different suggestions. And ASQ will take this, AESQ will take this information into account as well. And maybe we can work on future webinars with this information. Appreciate the input. So risk analysis and APQP examples. And as stated earlier by Mary Jo, this webinar was recorded. And if you have any questions related to this topic or after the fact, you can add them to the chat currently, or if you do have questions after the webinar, please get on the ASQ website and you can ask your question there as well, and it will be redirected to us. Next slide.
Just a really, there seems to be some questions on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think someone had their hand up. Luis, I'm not sure if you had a question or that was just a mistake.
No,
Yeah,
I
go
did
ahead.
have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Luis.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My main question relies, well, I've been interacting with APQP more in the manufacturing section or phase. So I've seen during the different projects that I work with that normally the MEs, the manufacturing engineers, seem kind of overloaded with all the deliverables during these two phases, phase 3 and phase 4. So what's the recommendation on how to overcome that kind of workload? Because first of all, you need them to be involved, because if one ME does one part and another ME does another part, sometimes they are not necessarily linked. So it's necessary for them to be part of the project, but at the same time, they are responsible or accountable for many of the deliverables. So what would be the suggestion on that regard?
Carl, do you have a?
Yeah, I'm happy to throw some thoughts into that. So one very simple word: planning, planning, and planning. Easy to say, I know sometimes it feels, but absolute planning up front. And that's one of the reasons why you should feel a theme coming through of what we're describing in terms of APQP. You'll notice we haven't dived into FMEAs, control plans, inspection planning, verification techniques, blah, blah, blah. We're talking very much about the framework and the application. What helps some of what you're describing, not knowing the detail, is things like leadership, appreciating through RACEs, the actual shared responsibilities across the organisation, departments, people. That things like the timing plan really demonstrates what needs to be done early versus later, sequencing, which is again back to planning. A lot of this is, I would say, just in my experience of APQP now, what year are we in? About 14 years of experience, seeing PPAP deployed against our company into the supply chain and other companies, and then the move more about, well, we actually really have to get the APQP message over. It is the planning up front and the building this stuff into the project management processes within your businesses. Genuinely, that is my personal experience, which I keep coming back around to. Hence why we're trying to promote RACEs, the timing plan, thinking about things like the events. How do you build the events into your business processes? Because they're the early warnings things aren't happening and stuff like that. I hope that helped. I don't know if any of the rest of the team want to add anything, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll say there's a comment in the chat about FAIR being the evidence, and then APQP and PPAP as a burden, right? And the way that we try to push it is FAIR shows you made one good part, and that's absolutely, a critical step. And that's why it's a part of the entire PPAP. And so we don't want to just say, hey, we made one good part. We want to show that we can consistently make a good part every single time. And that's the difference of mindset that we really need to try to push.
Yes. Yeah, if you have a very, I was just going to say, if you have a very good APQP process in place, once you receive or get to the point where you're making parts at rate, your parts will be much better. You'll have less scrap, and you'll be able to, the ramp, like what Carl showed earlier, will be a lot, not as broad, but you'll be able to start at rate quicker with less issues. Next question.
I don't see anything else in the chat. So as a reminder, if there's any additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat or send them to us after the webinar. We'll be posting them with the slides.
Also, like to recommend you guys reaching out and joining our community of practice on LinkedIn. You can ask the questions, join our interactive group, and all are welcome. The link is there in the chat as well. Appreciate everybody's attendance today. APQP's a marathon, and it takes time to get that under our belts, but we appreciate your attendance. And this is just a basic graphic of how broad our SMIG team represents the industry. A lot of great companies, and proud to be a member. I guess if no more questions, like I said, please reach out in the chat or through the website. And we appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next one.